All right, let's get started here. First off, it is important for you to know that I am not an employee of Limbic Arch. I am just like you and an independent and marketer of the Limbic Arch system, and as such, a user of the technology. If you've watched any of my other videos, you may have figured out that I am the one person in the world that figured out that we can use the Limbic Arch technology to remote boost to anyone anywhere in the world, or another world for that matter. So that kind of makes me a little bit unique, but don't go getting all impressed. The study of quantum energy is done by really smart scientists, and the difference in them and me is that they are geniuses in their own right, whereas I only occasionally appear to be a genius. I am, though, at least charming, more charming than they are, I would think. Secondly, anytime that anyone begins speaking on the subject of quantum energy, the conclusions are most often, if not always, way in the world of theoretical at best, residing most comfortably in the area of speculation, but with the strong evidence that base theoretical conclusion. We're working with the effects of another world, an existence that we have not previously been privy to, so expect it to be slightly difficult to grasp, even more so to accept. My objective in this video is not to draw too many conclusions, but to stay on the actual working effects. In other words, I'm going to stay with the facts of what works and leave the drawing of conclusions on why they're working up to the geniuses I mentioned earlier. I think about it for a minute. Most of us know a little bit about the workings of a cell phone, but like me are probably quite clueless on exactly why it works. I mean, frequencies float through the air and arrive on time to my phone anywhere in the world. Just a few years ago, that was way out in the world of weird, but nowadays it's barely even noticeable as something unique. We don't spend any time at all thinking about the why. We are only concerned about whether our cell phones actually work or not. The reason for this video is to attempt, in my own charming way again, to deal with the whole notion of the boost being some kind of a signal that travels to you through or by way of your cell phone. It's really important that you grasp that there's nothing more wrong about that except that concept than it is a frequency. And yes, I recognize the word wrong is an absolute, that nothing can be more wrong. Yeah, really smart people tell me that something is either wrong or not wrong. Nothing can be more wrong, but I disagree. For instance, it's wrong to say that tomato is a vegetable. It's more wrong to say that it's a bridge. So to say that the boost arrives by way of your cell phone is more wrong than just about anything else you mention about this technology, because it goes against the very foundation of the understanding of what all is going on. Let's begin with the basics here. All right, quantum energy, according to those really smart people I mentioned, is everywhere and every when. The term that is used is that quantum energy is in a state of superposition until you attempt to observe it or utilize it. Only then does it take on a position of time, space, and characteristic of what you wanted it to be. Yes, that's right. The best definition of quantum energy by the physicists that study it is pure potential to be anything that you want it to be. If you could ever grasp that, like I have, it's going to blow your mind to realize, oh my gosh, you've got something here that could not only change your life, but change the lives of so many others. So then, how does the boost actually get to you? Well, the actual answer is that it really doesn't. Yeah, I know it's confusing. So let me explain. It all has to do with with your quantum field. Here's what we will find in the Wikipedia. The theoretical physicist quantum field theory is a theoretical framework that combines classical field theory specifically or special relativity in quantum mechanics, and is used to construct physical models of subatomic particles in particle physics and quasi-particles in condensed matter physics. Quantum field theory treats particles as excited states, also called quanta, of their underlying fields, which are, in a sense, more fundamental than the basic particles. Interactions between particles are described by interaction terms in Lagrangian involving their corresponding fields. Each interaction can be visually represented by Feynman diagrams, which are formal computational tools in the process of relative perturbation theories. Wow. I get a little dizzy just reading that. And I'm a skydiver, used to falling through the air, spinning around in midair to connect with somebody else falling through the air at about 120 miles an hour like me. So for me to get dizzy just reading something is something. So let me put it in a little more, let's just say, simple terms. As it relates to your quantum field, as it relates to you, your quantum field is you. it is as much you as the you that you are familiar with as you. The challenge that you're going to have to get outside of your box of existence, and don't go getting all huffy and puffy about me or at me saying that you don't live in a box. We all live in a box. It's just that some live in larger boxes than others. Unfortunately, not only they don't not only live in the very small boxes, but they're convinced that that existence, they exist within the box, and all that exists within the box is all that exists. Well, uh, anyway, it does not. Quantum physics has proven that it does. There's more to this world than what exists in your little box. Better yet, learn everything you can about this as best you can. So what do I mean when I say that your quantum field is you? Yeah, that's going to take a little deeper dive into the rabbit hole. Throughout history of man, there has been this innate belief that there is more to reality than what we see. The idea of heaven and hell implies a possible three-dimensional world. Others have established a religious belief that we're living in the dream of a deity named Vishnu. Then there's others who believe we live in a matrix-like simulation, or that the entire universe is nothing more than a huge hologram. We're the only species that looks around us and says, I think there's more going on here than what we see. Of course, we're also the only species that uses written language, wears clothes, and has hair on top of our head that never stops growing. Yeah, we're weird. It's like we didn't really evolve here. We were just seeded here by some alien civilization that, all right, that's another really deep hole, but a hole that I don't have time to get into right now. All right. Now, interestingly enough, science seems to have confirmed that there is a whole lot more to reality than what we see. It was a Greek philosopher named Democritus that first popularized the belief that the smallest possible unit of matter was, in fact, the atom. Of course, our modern understanding of the atom, we know that it's not true. In fact, if you smash them together, they just divviz all over the place. And what comes out of them is 17 fundamental particles: electrons, quarks, neutrons, Z and W bosons, photons, gluons, leptons, and a host of others. As we know it today, the entire universe is made up of these 17 fundamental particles. There you go. We did it. We figured it all out and completed science, except these particles have a habit of not making any sense. The beautiful rules of relativistic physics that we experience every day just don't seem to apply to these guys. They act like particles at times and as waveforms at other times. This waveform particle duality is the basis for some of the biggest arguments in science today. Furthermore, the electrons circling the nucleus of the atom appear and disappear as if to go to another dimension where there's a quantum physicist looking at them there, where they disappear, wondering where they go when they disappear there. Probably the weirdest thing is that all of these particles appear to be interconnected in such a way as to appear that they are one and the same, both here and there, in multiple dimensions and times, all at the same time, at least as we understand time. And that is yet another rabbit hole. But how it all comes together is to give the impression that we are part of what some call the universal consciousness. So why is this important? Here's where my hope is that I can pull all of this together. The you that makes up your quantum field is part of the whole, meaning that when the boost is created, it doesn't actually go anywhere. Your quantum field is not only at the computer, not only part of the computer, but part of the actual program making up the Limbic Arch technology. And to add a whole new level of weird that defies a word to justify just how weird, your quantum field actually contains and can utilize vast amounts of knowledge, possibly reaching a level of unlimited knowledge. That's the only thing that can explain why I'm able to do remote boosting on someone that I have never met, don't have a clue as to what is actually causing their problem, and can create a boost specifically for them, which does not affect the tens of thousands, if not tens of millions, of people between me and them. What am I saying here? First off, I'm not trying to establish another religion. So whatever it is that you believe, then by all means, continue with your belief. But sooner or later, you're going to have to recognize that there's at least the possibility of a whole lot more going on with life as we know it today than what we can see and possibly even imagine. For instance, you and I are made up of trillions of atoms, each of which are made up of a nucleus containing protons and neutrons and electrons and circling the nucleus. What you may not be aware of is if you blow up the size of the nucleus to the size of a basketball, the electron would be circling 20 miles out with nothing but space in between them. But don't for a second believe that there's nothing in that space. And it appears that in the space in between the nucleus and the electron circling resides, like the Library of Congress, the knowledge of the universe. Here's something to think on. Have you ever heard of accidental savantism? It's when someone has a head injury and wakes up with astounding talents or abilities that defy logic. They can play chess like a champion when they never played chess before. They become instant mathematical geniuses, never having studied math to any extent. Or they can paint like Michelangelo or play the piano like Beethoven, as if the vast knowledge that is displaying itself in them had always been within them from birth. Well, the only way to explain it is that the knowledge was there, waiting to be released. I believe that we are coming into a time where we can tap into that vast reservoir of abilities of our quantum field. To get a taste of it, do a few remote boosts to someone miles, if not thousands of miles away. If that doesn't light your fire, then your wood is wet for sure. All right. Think of your quantum field as a light emitting from your physical body, infinitely outward, reaching the outermost parts of the universe in a time and space. Now imagine that field of light having a consciousness vastly superior to your physical consciousness, and you'll have somewhat of a simple picture of your quantum field. No, I'm not saying that this is what your quantum field looks like, basically because we're working in an area of a different dimension of times and space, uncomprehendable or incomprehensible to the three-dimensional thinking minds that we have. But just because we can't comprehend exactly what it is, we can still begin to experience a little of what all it can do. Imagine your potential if you're able to tap into that and affect your life. Let me give you an example of the potential here. A few months ago, my wife was going through a particularly emotional period of her life that was tied to a past experience. In her previous life, before we were married, when she was pregnant with the daughter that was now pregnant, it was a horrible experience that somehow carried forward to affecting her in this time when our daughter was pregnant. I'm sort of a scientist at heart and thought to myself, if I can affect Patricia's quantum field in multiple time frames, what is it that prevents me from sending a calming boost back in time to when she was struggling? My answer was nothing. So I pulled up the calming boost, focused on Patricia of the past, and within minutes her tears stopped flowing and she was completely happy and at peace with what happened. To this day, there's nothing about the past that has ever bothered her again. Sort of a wow moment, don't you think? I hesitated actually telling that story because I'm probably going to be hit with vast numbers of people asking me to produce another video on how to effectively change the past. But it's high time that people begin at least realizing what they have in their hands. And just for the record, quantum physicists have proven that you actually can affect the present by, and through multiple tests, by the way, you can affect the present by affecting the past. So there you have it. Or do we? You've got to add the quantum field of others to this to this equation. We've got over 6 billion people on the earth presently, each having their own quantum field, shining out into the universe, having to interact with yours and others' quantum field. I'm convinced that the quantum field of each and all of us here on earth is limitless in its ability to affect their individual physical body, but for reasons unknown, probably an evil force of some kind. Oh my God, talking about a really big rabbit hole. But because of the Limbic Arch technology right there in your hands, you have sort of a dimensional portal to escape the limited confines of your physical world and begin to reach out, touch on the truly amazing and extraordinary potential of you that is in your quantum field. Your quantum field literally is limitless. You physically have been limited. So tap into that quantum field. Get involved in this. Go for it. Let me know how you affect. And by the way, give me some thumbs up on this if you like the recording, and keep me posted as far as what you want me to post any other stuff.